Welcome to the brand new Draymond Green Show YouTube channel. Hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our content. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Draymond Green Show. We are live here, live as we record this for you here at the Resort World in Las Vegas. Appreciate them for having us here. I'm honored to have this next guest of mine. Was a teammate of mine for a year. I used to kick his ass, like, literally the years prior to that. But nonetheless, outside of him being my teammate, it's my brother. And I'm honored to have this next guest, fifth overall pick in the 2010 draft, four-time NBA All-Star, two-time All-NBA second team, and a 2016 Olympic gold medalist. None other, the one and only DeMarcus Cousins.
What's up, brother?
My dog. I appreciate you coming on,
sir.
man.
You know what it is, bro. It's love. It's love.
It's an honor for me, bro. Like, I've been wanting to have this conversation for a while. It was also one I never really wanted to do over Zoom.
Right.
I think for me, the connection is too strong. The brotherhood is too strong, and I'm happy to do it here in person. So I appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you, bro.
Absolutely. But let's walk me back to the beginning, growing up in Alabama. What was it like growing up and having to get it out the mud and then making it out of Alabama?
Have you been hungry for some college football? I am. I cannot wait. And if you love college football as much as I do, jump in on the DraftKings Sportsbook. Go to the app. Takes you 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes to download. It's a small slate of games, but it's week 0. We got the one over in Dublin. And go to the DraftKings app. If you're a first-timer, let's make it easy. Just pick a team to win. Select a team. Place your first bet. This is going to be a gigantic season because of conference realignment. There's so much mystery and so much fun and so many big games. Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Georgia. That's now a part of our life. If you've always loved college football, add a layer to it. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Put in the name Colin. By the way, when you download the app, put in the name Colin. That's $200 in bonus bets. If you put in the code Colin, you get $200 in bonus bets from DraftKings, betting just $5. That's a nice head start. It's like you won without winning. Pick a team. It's simple. Download it. Code Colin. $200 off 5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
It was tough, man. Typical story. You grow up in an environment that isn't promising. It's not a lot of opportunity, and it's just not a lot of resources in general. So, you kind of grow up in a situation where you become a product of your environment. But, as every young boy, you kind of get to that point in your life, usually about middle school. Where I'm from, we call it hopping off the porch. But, you get to that point and you got to figure out, which route you're going to take, left or right. And, when you come from that type of place, you know what that means. So, it was, that typical type situation. And, it was a lot of growing pains for me, trying to figure out how to become a young man and figure out my niche in life and, just what I even wanted to do. There was a lot of negativity in front of me that, a lot of negative influence, which is usually what kind of, what are the words? That's the part that you get the most of. That's the overload that you get growing up in those type of environments. So with that being said, it goes back to, what do I want to do? Who do I want to be? And, with the influence of my mom, watching her work, 2 jobs at some times and raise 6 kids, it's like, she was the perfect example for me as far as work ethic. So, once I got to that part where, hey, at the end of the day, I'm willing to work my tail off to, accomplish whatever I put my mind to, like, I know I had a chance. So, she helped me discover ball. I grew up playing football originally. Had dreams of being in the NFL. Genetics just ain't really work out in my favor. So, I did take some things from that with just the physicality part, that killer mindset, part of it. And it kind of translated over to ball. But back to what I was saying, my mom was the person that kind of introduced me to it. I was, getting in trouble, doing a lot of, just silly, immature shit. And my mom, she was like, I need to, put you in something that's, constructive for you, keep you on the right path, things like that. So she like, try basketball. And, quick learner, very fast learner. And, the rest is history. My story played out how it played out. But originally that's just kind of, like I said, typical, story of, how we kind of come up.
And grew up, born, raised in Mobile. Then you moved to Birmingham.
I was born in Mobile and, basically raised in Birmingham.
Okay.
And then I went back to Mobile my senior year of high school.
And why go back then?
Like I said, I was a youngin' trying to figure things out. And, like I said, I bumped my head plenty of times. I've had a lot of life lessons, early in life. I grew up faster than a lot of kids. And like I said, that's just kind of the environment I grew up in. So, me going back to Mobile was a decision my mom ended up making when, she basically got to a boiling point of, I can't do this alone. I need a little more help. And she kind of leaned on her mother in that situation to, help guide me through the rest of my years in high school. But I got in some silly shit junior year, which kind of led me back to going to Mobile. And, at that point in my life, that's when I really, made the decision to commit to, being a basketball player full time. And, I understood. I had a lot of potential on my side. I had a skill set that wasn't really a normal thing. So, I told myself, let's take advantage of this opportunity and let's see where it can take you.
So you keep mentioning your mom. For me, my mom, man, you know my mom.
Yeah, shout out to Dukes, man.
Right.
Shout out to Dukes.
And
I need them tacos, too.
Absolutely. she coming out tomorrow.
Oh, for sure.
And making them on Tuesday.
Okay.
But I know how strong my mom is, and your mom the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant, incredible job that they did in raising us. But when it's funny because I had a conversation, and the reason I say this, you keep saying my mom did this, my mom did that. I had a conversation with my mom one day about from 11 years old on, my mom was a single mother. Mm-hmm. And, from 12 to 18, them are vital years and growing into manhood.
Yes.
And I lived in a house with my mom. And so in turn, I watched the way my mom ran a house as opposed to the way my dad or a father or a man would run a house. In turn, I picked up some of those tendencies because that's what you see. Mm-hmm. And I said to my mom one day, maybe like 3-4 years ago, I was like, Mom, you did an incredible job raising me. I'm so thankful and appreciative. But something I need you to understand is I also watched you as a woman do all that you can to raise us. But some of the things that you did, I picked up on.
Oh, absolutely.
And now I have a wife and a woman. And sometimes we bump heads.
Right.
And the reason we bump heads is probably because I'm doing something that she should be doing or that she would be doing, because those are things that I picked up just because I was raised by my mom. And so I said all of that to say, you keep mentioning your mom. Where does your father come in your life? And with that relationship, then how did it impact your upbringing and who you became as a man and the life lessons that you had to learn?
With my pops, it's I know him. I know who he is. But the relationship is, non-existent at this point. I've attempted to, kind of create a relationship or, a bond, and, it just didn't quite work out that way. That's just, it is what it is. But it's some things just aren't meant to be. Mm-hmm. And, it's okay. But I do learn from it. I do take, things from our relationship, and I don't take it in a way of trying to apply it to my life, but I actually want to do the opposite. It's actually, being a father it means so much to me that it's actually a insecurity for me. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say that is because I don't always feel like I do it the correct way. Or sometimes, you know, my message that I'm giving my boys and my daughter is like, is it the correct message, or is this just the way I feel? You know, and you know, you can, you know, the trauma and the toxicity and the negativity that you kind of grow up with can also become a part of it.
Absolutely.
And sometimes with making decisions, it's hard to separate your, you know, your foundation and an emotional decision. So sometimes it kind of gets in my mind on that type of thing, and you know, I beat myself up about it. I want to be the best example I can be. I want to make sure, you know, I'm a resource for them and let them know, like, whatever they're going through, no matter what it is, I'm pretty sure I've been through it, or I have, you know, some pretty sound advice that can help guide you through it, you know, the cleanest way possible. So, you know, it's a struggle for me because I didn't get it firsthand. So I'm also, you know, no matter how long I am a father, it's still gonna always kind of be brand new for me because I didn't have an example in front of me. So, you know, I pride myself on being the best version of myself every day. You know, I never want, you know, my seeds to go through, you know, anything that I had to experience. And like I said, I want to make this the cleanest path possible for them. And on top of all of it, it's more so for me just breaking, you know, generational curses. You know, it's so much bullshit in our culture that, you know, we kind of praise and when in actuality it should be kind of frowned upon. But it's so many years of this cycle of doing it the same type of way that we think it's okay. So for me, it's just, you know, breaking that cycle, even when it comes down to, you know, eating the correct way, putting the right things in your body. You know, it's plenty of, you know, Black families, ethnic families out there that deal with diabetes and things of that nature. My family is one of them. So me knowing that, hey, no sugar, you know what I mean? And I know it sucks. I know your peers are doing it, but this is my way of showing you that I love you. And it may suck now, it may not make sense now, but you know, down the line, you'll understand and realize like he was really doing what was, you know, best for my long term and my right now. So, you know, that's just kind of where I'm at when it comes to, you know, fatherhood.
I had an interesting thing happen to me the other day. Most people don't know the story of what you know, but most people don't know the story of my fatherhood, my journey with fatherhood in my life, not me as a father. But long story short, I was raised by my daddy till I was 12. I thought he was my daddy. When I was 13, I found out that he wasn't my real father. Met my real father, went through high school, embarrassed to really embrace the relationship because everybody in my school district knew my daddy. So now how do I tell people that that's not my daddy? And so then I dealt with that embarrassment and I hid from it. Never really allowed the relationship to go anywhere because I was so embarrassed by it. Fast forward, sophomore year of college, I start to become who I became through basketball though. And so as you know, like through basketball, we can gain confidence in who we are as men. We gain an identity through that. And so I became comfortable enough with who Draymond is that it's like, oh, this is my story. It is what it is. Let me embrace this. Embraced it. Things went left with my daddy who raised me. Got to the NBA. Things went left with my father. That birth, you know, that didn't give birth to me, but my father. Tried to patch things up with my daddy. It was kind of shaky and never really the same. My father is sometimes here, sometimes there, and not really his fault either. It's kind of, and I mean, he has some blame in it too, but I also have some blame in it, and I know that, but it's just my personal journey. But an interesting thing, and I said all of that to ask you this question, an interesting thing happened to me the other day, and it made me really rethink, like, this journey with my dad, my father, and where do I need to take it? And I don't know. Like, I'm literally just having this conversation with you. I haven't had this conversation with anybody because it just happened the other day and it shook me up. And my son said, Daddy, who was your daddy when you was my age? And I said, whoa, who was your daddy when you was my age? And the reality is he's actually met both of them. but not consistently enough in his life to where it's like, oh yeah, And that shook me because it was like, whoa, I need to change something because I need to figure this out for him. Because maybe he's yearning for a grandfather. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he want to know a grandfather. And so it brought me to a place, and this is therapy for me, by the way, right now, because I'm literally just talking through this thing as it just happened the other day. But it's got me thinking, and I don't know where to turn except for try to make that right for him so he do know. And I said all of that to ask you, have you faced something like that with your boys where they ask you something, they wonder something about your father? Because I feel like they asked me or he asked me and your boys would ask you because we are good fathers to them. And so it's like, well, if you're doing this for me, where was that for you? But I don't know where to turn with it. And I just wanted to ask you, have you faced something like that with your boys?
I actually have, and it's my oldest son. My two youngest, not. I'm sure it's on his way, but they don't quite understand that right now. But for sure, my oldest, and it's more so where a part of me being a father, I'm super open. Like I admit to my flaws. I admit to my struggles coming up. I admitted to my insecurities coming up because I want my son to be able to relate. And I'm not saying everything I went through he's going to go through, but just me admitting and explaining and telling my story, it may be something that he is going through that, touches him and it makes sense, or it triggers something within him, or it answers a question that may be, in his mind that he's afraid to, speak on. So I'm very open when it comes to that. And like I said, I always want to tell my story so he can understand why I father him the way I do. Sometimes you have to be hard on him. And, as a kid, because we were once in that place, you feel like, man, parents mean as hell, or, whatever the case may be. And then, you get to this big age and your mind is forever, those messages that you get as a kid, those they don't go anywhere. They kind of sit there, and then, out of nowhere, it kind of clicks for you. And you're like, that's what that meant.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, that's what I want to happen for mine, and hopefully sooner than later. So, like I said, they don't have to go through the same struggle. So, I've been through that similar type situation, and it's very sensitive for me because it's a lot of questions I have that still are unanswered, and they may remain that way. That's just kind of how this thing works. So, it goes back to me. Like I said, I just want to be the best version of myself, and I feel like with me just believing in that part, it'll carry over to fatherhood, it'll carry over to being a husband and so many other places. And hopefully I can be the example that they need.
Absolutely. And I think you've done a great job of that. I've seen you in your, in daddy mode, fathering your kids, the struggles that we go through as fathers, especially times when you have a child that's not with your wife, those struggles, people don't understand that. Some days you're going to practice, coming off a legal call all day the day before. Got legal calls all day the next day. And people don't understand that struggle. And I've seen you in that mode and how you hold it together, no matter what the situation is at that time. Because when you have that situation, it gets sticky sometimes, and nonetheless, I still got to show up for them.
Absolutely.
Show up for him and be the same daddy he knows when everything's going great for me. You know what I'm saying? I've seen you in those situations, and it's honorable.
I appreciate that, bro.
Absolutely. But in moving forward, high school, then we get to college. You're All-American. You're all the things. Commit to UAB, decommit, commits to Memphis with Coach Cal.
Yep.
Coach Cal leaves Memphis, and you go with him to Kentucky. Just talk to me about what was it in Cal that you saw to where you're like, oh, I'm going to Memphis, which is in the same conference as actually the school that I grew up in the city, UAB, Birmingham. It was in the Conference USA. And then you go with Cal, like, no, I'm going with him. What was it in Cal that you saw that you were like, I'm going with him no matter where he goes?
Well, it's crazy. Like you said, Memphis and UAB are in the same conference, or was at some point. So when I was starting this basketball journey, I ended up, having an opportunity to go to a UAB game. So I happened to be playing Memphis. Cal was there, and he had a player by the name of Sean Williams.
Absolutely.
So, the way Sean Williams played the game, I'm just like, bro, that's how I want to play. Like, just being able to play all over the floor, score from all over the floor, be a playmaker, a ball handler, all of those things. And, we kind of came up in an era where you were more, your talents were a little more minimized. They put you more in a box.
Mm-hmm.
If you were 6'5" and above, you going to the post.
Like,
you know what I mean? So we grew up in that era. So, it was weird to see a guy my size, handling the ball, shooting, and things of that nature. So that intrigued me about Cal, that he enabled that in his players. So that was really the first thing. And then, I watched how he handled the careers of, Tyreek Evans and Derrick Rose and Rodney Carney and all these guys that kind of came up under him. And, I loved everything about it. I loved the relationship he had with his guys, even after,
mm-hmm.
he left it. They left the program. So, all of those things kind of intrigued me, towards wanting to play for Calipari. And then at the end of the day, he's real about, this situation. Like,
mm-hmm.
yeah, it's a sport, but, this is a situation where you can find long-term success. You can find long-term wealth, all of these things. And he understands that.
Mm-hmm.
He understands both sides of it. Obviously, he wants to, bring in the best talent that's going to help, continue to propel his program. And it kind of goes hand in hand. And he's mastered how to, push that relationship in the most positive way where both sides benefit from it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I love the most about Cal. And when it came to me leaving college, I've been on record saying this before, it was the most simple and real conversation ever. It's, you'll stay if you want to take care of my family, and you'll leave if you want to take care of your family.
And you wanted to stay, right?
Oh, I was planning on staying. I mean, I was so emotionally attached at that. You know how college goes, bro. Like,
absolutely,
your heart really be in it. You
absolutely.
know what I mean? And once you get a little taste of success and you get close to that finish line of winning the championship, you kind of start craving it. So it's like, man, I got to come back and get that chip.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And just the energy of the tournament, the energy of your university behind you, the way they support you and lift you up, like, you want to win for them. You know what I mean? So that's just kind of where I was after we lost in the Elite Eight. So obviously my mind was like, come back. And I had a very brief conversation with John. I'm thinking we on the same page, like, A5, like, let's run it back. John, like, hell no, bro, I'm out of here. Like, and it makes sense. Like, he's the number one pick. Why the hell would he come back?
Absolutely.
So, like I said, after having that conversation with Kyle, it was an easy decision from that point moving forward. And it's like, I gotta go take care of my family.
Absolutely. And you get drafted to an organization at the time that was a lot like the organization I got drafted to at the time. It was the laughingstock of the NBA, was through coaches every 2 years.
Every 1 year, bro.
It's crazy. Like, the turnover in the organization, no stability. Teams walk into your gym, it's a night off for them because...
Whoa, relax.
No, that was the Warriors too. What I'm saying is, like, these organizations...
We gonna put up a fight now.
No. I'm talking about the organization. You get drafted to the organization, and the way teams looked at these organizations was like, oh, we got a night off when we walk
Absolutely.
in. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was the Warriors, that was the Kings, it's the Pistons now.
Right.
Like, that's how the organization was looked at. You get drafted into that organization, and in spite of all of that, in spite of the coaching changes, the instability, because I always talk about, no one ever says, yo, it's the organization fault.
Right.
It's always the player fault. By the way, 19 years old, it can't really be my fault.
Right.
Like, 19, you're supposed to be helping me out, but it don't really happen that way. They blame the player. And in spite of all of that, you go there and from the time you get there, all rookie teams, all NBAs, all stars, didn't want to give you your due at first, but they had to. You forced them to. What was it like going to an organization like that and then having to navigate all of those things with the coaching changes, the front office, then there was an ownership change while you was there. All of those things happened, and what was it like for you having to navigate that as a young 19-year-old?
It was tough and it was confusing. And, you know, it was even, you know, worse for me because I was coming from a situation at Kentucky where, you know, Cal treated us like pros. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He was preparing us for that next level. So I'll never forget this, but shout out to my vet, you know, Francisco Garcia, I'm sorry. Cisco was, you know, my vet. He might have, at the time, my rookie year, he might have been 5-6 years in. So that just kind of showed, like, that's not a real vet.
Not at all.
At the time, like, that was my vet. But I remember in my rookie season, you know, it was something simple. I don't even remember what the task was, but I kind of, like, at Kentucky, it was like, I never did anything like that. Then I came to the Kings, and in my mind, it's like, this is a step higher even more, you know what I mean? So this is the elite level of basketball. So my expectations were, you know, they were off, you know, to say the least. So it was a simple task. And I remember Cisco saying something like, yo, you really was spoiled at Kentucky. Like, and in my head, I'm like, damn, maybe I was. Like, but at the same time, I'm like, this is an even more elite level. So why is it being, you know, looked at as me being spoiled? So long story short, Cisco ended up eventually getting traded to the Houston Rockets.
Yep.
And I remember when he went there, he ended up tapping in with me, like, a little later, and he was like, man, I remember that day I called you spoiled. Like, he was like, I was wrong. Like, we were in the shithole. Like, and I'm like, I knew I wasn't tripping, bro. And it was, and I'm not here to, like, shit on the Kings or anything like that. That's just, you know, in sports, you have up and down years. And, you know, I just so happened to come in at a point where it was down years. The organization was figuring itself out. You know, it was in this transition period. The owners that drafted me, you know, they were ready to move on and sell the team. So it's a lot of things I got caught up in that was just out of my control.
Absolutely.
But, you know, the average, you know, fan or whatever don't quite understand that part of the business or the game. So, you know, it's easy to look at my situation and, you know, just kind of point the finger. And to be honest, a lot of it was my fault. Like, I did do a lot of bonehead shit, stupid shit. But, you know, that's part of growing up and becoming a man. You bump your head a few times.
Absolutely.
But, you know, it was hard. It was hard figuring it out. You know, a new system every single year, like, that's tough to do. Each coach has a different system. Each coach thinks differently. Like, so, you know, just trying to find success with a new system every single year, that's really hard to do.
Absolutely.
And then on top of it, you know, people think players create a vibe, which they do, but an organization being good starts at the top. That's with any type of organization. It starts at the top. So
for sure.
It just wasn't right. It wasn't, things weren't aligned correctly, and it wasn't, the Kings weren't ready to flourish yet. And, you know, like I said, I ended up going through two ownership groups. I had 3 GMs, and I was there 6.5 years, had 6 coaches. So, like I said, it was tough to navigate. But, you know, at the end of the day, when it came to competing, that was my foundation. I had my own personal goals, which was to try to be the best, you know, player I could be, regardless of my situation, you know, find a way to shine. And, you know, that was just kind of my mindset with, you know, maneuvering through that.
Nah, I mean, like I said, I think, you know, even when I look back on it, it's dope to see because, and now being in the NBA and understanding, what it means to be a bad organization. Like, there's way more bad organizations than there are good organizations. And with that being said, and like I said, it goes back to my original point, which is, we've never once in a million years saw a list come out on Bleacher Report, on The Athletic, on ESPN, talking about these are the top 5 or bottom 5 worst organizations in the league.
Right.
These are the bottom 10 worst organizations in the league. And here's why these organizations are bad. Bah, 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 bah.
Right.
You can go down the list.
Right.
I've never seen an article that way.
No.
But the moment DeMarcus Cousins get ejected from a game or get a technical foul or him and teammate have words, because that does happen amongst teammates, then that's like this big issue, you know, and it's like, oh, that's who you become. And I myself has experienced some of that, which then leads me to my next question for you, which is, there's passion and there's attitude. They live in the same house.
Yes.
Yes. They sleep in the bedroom together.
Right.
Pretty much the same thing. But the difference in them is how they're characterized and categorized.
Right.
I remember you said something to me in 2018. Maybe even before that. It probably was before we were even teammates. But I know for certain you said it to me at some point when we were teammates. I'm actually certain you said it multiple times, which is, man, we the same. We the same. And they say you got passion. And they say I'm crazy and got an attitude.
Right.
And I was like, no, I can appreciate your passion. And I've always told you that. Like, no, I know your passion. I appreciate. Also, it matters. Like, don't really put me with somebody that it don't matter to, because I don't want to be around somebody that it don't matter. But also when you said that, I was like, cuz you fucking crazy. We ain't the same. and you said something to me that day, and I was like, I didn't necessarily go back at you, but it was a thought-provoking thing, and I just kept it with me. And what you said was, nah, but y'all been winning. So they say yours is passion. I haven't won much. So they say mine is an attitude and I can't be coached and I'm crazy and this and that. And I said all of that to say, I'm sorry. Because you was right. Because all of a sudden we ain't winning and now I'm crazy.
Right.
Now I ain't got this sense.
Draymond, you America's most wanted, brother.
And I'm just like, oh, this is fucking nuts. And when I was going through all of that stuff this year, the first person I thought about was actually you. Because it took me back to that moment when you said that. And I said all of that to say to you, and coming through this league and being labeled as a head case, as a coach cancer, as this thing, as that thing, ultimately knowing like, no, bro, I care.
Right.
How did you ultimately come to terms with that of like, no, I care and I do have passion and all these things, but then y'all are trying to use it against me, make me out to be something I am not. But at the same time, this is how I play. This is how I'm great. These are the things that make me great.
Right.
But then I got to try to find this balance because y'all trying to label me and say I'm a problem. How did you ultimately come to terms with that, grow through that? Or do you think you ever got through it?
I don't. I never really have come to terms with it. I let it go because, you get to a point where you just learn to control what you can control. And at the end of the day, in this lifetime, it's going to be motherfuckers that hate you. It's going to be motherfuckers that love you. That's just how this goes. Like, no matter what you do, no matter how many things you do right, they're going to find something to hate about you doing it the right way.
Absolutely.
So that's just, the nature of life. But it was hard because the same the same emotions, the same passion, the same, that will to win, that fire inside of you, the same thing that got you to this point and helps you be this world-class athlete, it's like frowned upon. And at the end of the day, like, I think it's even deeper than that. Like, everybody's not gonna like everybody, but at the end of the day, if you can come to understand a person, it's easy to accept. It's easier to accept. And, I've thought about it, I've brainstormed, I'm like, what is it? Like, and it just comes down to, we don't relate. Like, when you think about these front offices, you think about these people that run these organizations and even coaches, we don't relate. And the biggest thing we don't relate on is you don't know how to be a world-class athlete.
That part.
You don't know what it takes. You don't know the hunger. You don't know the drive. You don't know the fight, the sacrifice, like the toughness, the mental toughness, the physical toughness. You don't know what it takes to be a professional athlete. But you have the power to critique and judge, which is mind-blowing. And it even goes a little further than that. Outside of being a world-class athlete, you get these guys from all over the world, from different backgrounds, different, environments, places, and you appreciate them for their athleticism. And you don't really understand their process or what they go through to get to that point, to become that athlete. And, the different things they went through in life to get them to that point. You don't understand it. You probably don't even know. And I think that just falls back on, it's strictly about being an athlete, but it's so much more deeper to understanding these athletes and these different people that get overlooked and honestly just kind of swept under the rug. And I think that's why it's going to always be that rough patch of where it's never going to really match up or be understandable. So have I gotten to the point, where I've accepted it or no, but I've definitely let go.
Speaking of accepting it, you just spoke about John, number one pick. Top 3 Washington Wizards of all times. If you want to argue with me about it, I'm not going to sit here and argue for top 5 for certain. Like,
right.
Tomato. He recently said, like, he just wants to help an NBA team. Like, I know I still got something left to give to the game, and I just want to help an NBA team be back in the NBA and help him in any way that I can. If that's just mentoring the guy because of what I've been through or whatever, he wants that. You've said the opposite. As of recent, maybe like 6-7 months ago, if that long ago, you said, I know my time in the NBA is done. I'm over chasing the dream. I'm moving on. What was the process like for you to get there? And is that you've continued to play some basketball in places? Is that the still same sentiment that you share or that you share today about the game, about the NBA, as you did 6-7 months ago?
I've actually gotten to the place where, I found that joy again in playing ball. And, I feel like people can relate. It's no different than, you working your regular job and initially, you working your way to getting that job, you loved it. You were all about it. You were, I can't wait to work this job. You actually probably enjoy going to it every day. And then, you get to a point where, the job is overwhelming. It's kind of affecting your personal life. It's affecting life at home. And, that's kind of what the NBA became for me. And not necessarily that it was doing anything detrimental towards me. It was just more so the mental space I was in with, one, accepting it, 2, trying to understand, like, why am I at this place and why I'm still trying to prove a point that I felt like I've, proven plenty of times. So for me, it was always about finding that joy again, because I love the game of basketball. Like, I'm going to play ball if I'm on a team or not. Like, I'm going to go to the local gym and play.
And
like,
just hoop.
I love hoop. Like, I really love to hoop. So for me, it was finding that joy, you know, being a part of that team chemistry, team camaraderie, and just, you know, being, at the end of the day, we're artists. Like, and when you're creating your art and you in that space where you can just, you know, free flow and be yourself, be the best version of yourself, it's a great feeling. You know what I mean? And I've finally gotten back to that space, and I'm just enjoying my art. You know, I'm in a place where, and for me, with moving forward, when it comes to business, it's going to always be a place where, you know, I'm appreciated and not tolerated. And I don't want that feeling of being tolerated. So, you know, that's kind of where I'm at with it. And for the most part, like, I say I'm not chasing that dream, and that's as far as me reaching out, like, hey, man, give me a chance.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not doing that. Like, now, if you guys find interest and it makes sense on both sides, then, you know, that's something I'll consider. But as far as me reach out and just hearing and that's the other thing, like, I'm the type of person, like, I ask questions, or when I fuck up, I want to know the truth, because at the end of the day, I'm the person that I don't have a problem looking in the mirror or, you know, saying I was wrong or, you know, self-reflect. Like, I self-reflect a lot. Like, what can I do better? But I feel like the only way you kind of know that is when they are honest with you, and it's like, you know, what was it that bothers you? What can I do to, you know, to change that? And you don't really quite get those type of answers in the NBA. You know, they throw a lot of sugar on shit in the NBA. Like, that's just how it kind of goes. So, you know, I can't really get a real answer, you know, and, you know, at the end of the day, I want to play ball. I want to ride off in this sunset, and, you know, I'm going to do what makes me happy at the end of the day. So that's just kind of where I'm at.
I think that's beautiful. To find that love, I think, you know, that's something that we all go through, no matter, regardless of what the position is that you're in, by the way. If you're in it, at some point or another, you kind of lose that love and that lust for the game. And then it's just like, fuck.
Right.
Like, I got to go do this.
Right.
Like, everything is like pulling teeth. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? So just to hear that you have that love again, I think personally that's amazing. So in speaking on just the love for it, finding it all again, when you look back on it, through the whole process, whether it's the Kings wanting to leave the Kings, then not wanting to leave the Kings, or the one thing that I do know is that the entire time you always said, like, no, I love it here. I want to be here. Like, I drafted here. I want to be here. Ultimately, you got traded, which I can imagine is tough for anyone. I've never had to deal with it, but I struggle with change as it is. So to get traded in the middle of a season to me is terrifying. But nonetheless, needless to say, whether it's Kings to the Pelicans, Pelicans going great, tear your Achilles, then you ultimately sign with the Warriors. When you look back through the journey, are there any regrets that you have about your career, about the way that it went, the way that it ended, although it's not completely over yet, but do you look back on it and say, man, like, I regret this, or I have any type of regrets about something, the way you handled something, just going through the journey?
Bro, I'm not a person that lives with many regrets, but man, it's one thing I know for sure I wish I would have did differently in my career. And it might not even be an answer you really are expecting from me, but bro, it was a year in Sacramento, and I was dealing with some family things back home, and you know, my brother, you know, kind of had a situation of his own, and it was this fucking reporter, bro, named Andy Furillo. And this guy he made it a mission to make sure he gave me hit piece after hit piece, where it was, you know, just kind of it was the campaign that kind of pushed me out of Sacramento. They had a little campaign going, which was fine. But, I would see the articles and, you know how we deal with media. It's like, I know what your angle is with me, so I'm going to deal with you accordingly.
Absolutely.
So he finally made a piece and he started to slander and it was to the point where he was kind of running out of material to say about me. So then he just kind of switched lanes and now he was speaking on a family member. And, I'm super sensitive about my family. It's not a lot of things that bother me more than when you bother my family. And for me, with me doing my job and me being in this profession, talk your shit. Say whatever you got to say about me, but don't bother my family. You know what I mean? So he mentioned my brother and it was and I didn't appreciate it. So at the end of the day, I kind of pressed the line, like, keep my fucking family out your mouth, homie. And it was never to the point where I wanted to take it further than it needed to, but I definitely wanted to get my point across. And at the end of the day, looking back on it, one, I was raised better. Two, I was raised to respect my elders. Like, so I definitely pressed that old man a little too hard, bro. So for me, bro, that was probably the only. I'm just like, man, come on. And I'm not a guy that, like, I hate bullies. Like, I experienced it growing up. Like, that's part of the reason the demeanor came about, because I grew up in an environment like, you gonna either eat or be eaten.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of where the demeanor comes from. But I never believed in bullies. So, I look back on that moment and I'm like, bro, you were wrong for that. Like, you know what I mean? But outside of that, nah. Like, coming from where I'm from, like, knowing what I've been through, I never in a million years as a youngin' thought my life would play out the way it did. I've lived an unbelievable life. And I say that going through the good and the bad. Like, I look at some of my peers and look at, people I grew up with in my environment. And, it's people that never even leave their neighborhood. You know what I mean? I've been all over the world. I've experienced different cultures. I've seen different things. I've met, plenty of, amazing people. So I could never sit here and say, I live with regret. But, like I said earlier, I definitely self-reflect and I have no problem admitting, when I'm wrong.
You came to the Warriors on a 1 year, I think at the time, maybe it was like $5.8 million deal. The news on the street was that you turned down 2 for $40 from New Orleans. Is the 2 for $40 true? When you look back on the decision also to come to the Warriors, as it stands today, how do you feel about that decision as well?
So, one, no, that's not true. Dale Demps kick rocks. But so when I blew my Achilles, it was a little bit right before All-Star break. That year I was voted All-Star starter. That was my first time. Like, had a lot of things going my way. So I was on pace to getting a max contract, like full max contract. And I think it might have been like 175 at the time, something like that. So that was that was understood. Yeah.
Penny right there.
So when the Achilles injury happened, I went out to LA, had the surgery. And then at that point I just kind of separated from the team. And, having an injury of that magnitude, it can low-key kind of be a distraction to even be around. Me being a vital part of that team, like, it was a blow to the team. So my thing was, let me kind of remove so those guys can stay locked in for the rest of the season. So I went out to LA, went through my process of healing, and maybe a week after my surgery, Dale Demps reached out, and the Pelicans actually were coming out that way. They had a road trip between the two LA teams. West Coast road trip. So anyway, he came to visit me. And initially with the visit, it was to come check on me. Like I said, this was a week later. So I'm just thinking, he coming to check on me, holler, whatever. So he's probably there maybe 10 minutes. In the midst of that, he starts talking contracts. I don't have an agent around, anything like that. It's just me, my day-to-day manager. I had a couple doctors with me, going through my process. So he's talking to me, he starts mentioning the contract. And you know how this goes. We don't negotiate. That's what our agents are for. Like, that's not my job. Like, so once he started, kind of talking about it, and he never mentioned numbers or anything, he just kind of started the conversation of, your value has dropped since the injury or whatever. So I kind of look at him and I'm kind of like in shock, like, you even really having this conversation while I'm sitting here like this. Like, so I kind of got a little frustrated and I'm like, you know what, like, I'm not really in the space like to do this. So, we finished the evening, we go our separate ways. So before he left, I was like, I'd rather not speak again until, the start of free agency. Like, because I wasn't appreciative of that moment. And I let it be known to my agent as well. And I was like, if there's anything that really needs to be said, you can just, holler at my agent. Like, so I didn't hear from Dale Demps until the start of free agency. And we kind of had our conversation. I talked to a few teams, that day, and which they don't matter now. But with Dale Demps, he took offense to me not wanting to speak. So then it was, the conversation was, we don't want you back. You were difficult to deal with. So I'm like, all right, I'm like, damn, like in my head, I'm like, damn, like, you don't even want me back? Like, so get on the phone with my agent and I'm like, this motherfucker just told me he didn't want me back. So now I'm kind of like lost. Like, because going into this whole thing, I'm like, I know it's going to be figured out.
Absolutely.
We weren't a playoff team the year before. We're now a playoff team. We had a lot of success in a short time, so I'm like, I know they're going to try to keep this team together. I brought Rondo in. We had Drew Holiday in. So we had a night. We had a really good core. And so my whole mindset was like, I know it'll get figured out, whatever it is. So, once I heard the words, we don't want you back at all, my mind kind of shifted. And it's just like, damn, like, what am I doing now? So now I know, like, I'm not getting the max because the team that can pay it to me doesn't even want me. And I think for the most part throughout the league, it was kind of figured that I would be back with New Orleans. So, we kind of had that conversation, and then I'm not really sure of the timeline, but they ended up signing Julius Randle. So for me, I'm like, well, there's my money. Like, you know what I mean? So they really moved on. So, at this point, I'm like, damn, this is a fucked up situation. But, I know the reality of my situation, which is I have a blown Achilles. I probably won't be back next year. It's just a difficult time. So, I get on the phone with my agent and we kind of figure out a game plan as to, how can I maneuver through this and still find a way to be successful. And, he kind of mentioned the Warriors and I'm like, that would make sense. I could rehab. I can come in, once I'm healthy and, just kind of help the team move forward. And I can still remain with some type of value. You know what I mean? And then I could go on and continue my career. So that was kind of the game plan, and that's how it was introduced to me, and that's more so how it played out. But to answer that question, I took a lot of scrutiny for that so-called deal that was offered to me. But like I said, we never had a conversation about a deal in general. Like no numbers, no years, anything was offered. So I don't to this day know where that rumor came from.
Man, I think I still remember getting that call. I was sitting in Santorini, Greece on vacation at dinner with my wife. Was having dinner on the cliff looking over the water.
Light flex.
And Bob and Bob called me and Bob was like, yo. He's like in a panic, almost like hyperventilating, like, yo, like, it's crazy what's going on back here. I know you're on vacation, but I think we can get DeMarcus Cousins. What you think? And I'm like, Bob, what? Like, what are you talking about? He's like, I think we can get DeMarcus Cousins. Like, He's like, what do you think? How you feel about that? Like, when I talk to him, he seems like he in, but he need to talk to you and Steph. And he really needs to talk to you because I guess y'all got into it or something. And I said, well, number one, Bob, that's no issue. No issue at all. So number two, Bob, if you can get DeMarcus Cousins, you fucking get DeMarcus Cousins. Like, I don't care who may feel away. If you can get DeMarcus Cousins, you get DeMarcus Cousins. And I remember that whole thing playing out. And you ended up on the team doing your rehab. You came back, first game back, dunk on Kyle Kuzma. So now you're rehabbing from an Achilles injury. I'd imagine not really feeling like yourself when you come back.
Mm-hmm.
Then you dunk on Kuz right away. You had that play, which is like, oh, that's prime DeMarcus.
Mm-hmm.
In the moment when that play happens and you like at that moment, do you feel like, oh, I'm back, I'm good? Or was that just one hurdle that you had to jump over coming back from it?
I would say it was a hurdle I had to jump over. And, it was a lot for me even, coming back, learning the system,
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, in that offense, like, people think it's just so free-flowing, but it takes a lot of IQ to play in that, and your IQ never turns off. Like, it's not just an athletic type system. It's a lot of thinking in between. So learning that on the fly, learning how to play off, the tendencies of Steph, the tendencies of Clay, and then ultimately, K at the time.
Absolutely.
And then even you, because we did a lot of similar things, but, it was me trying to find my way into a well-oiled machine, but also continue to let it run, properly. So it was a lot of difficult, times where I, sometimes I felt out of place, the rhythm was off, trying to figure out my own personal game within the offense. So it was a lot of things against me. And then on top of that, just having confidence in my movements, like, doing things that I was used to doing, but my mind is telling me like, yeah, you can still do it, but my body not on the same page. So it was very difficult. But I had credit to you guys, I had a really good group around me. You guys, really embraced me. You guys worked with me. You allowed me to, find my way within it. And, eventually it was rolling. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it was rolling, bro. So, we kind of finally found our rhythm. Everybody, figured out their place within the team, and and everybody was finding success at the same time. And then, obviously, we ran into another injury. So, but like I said, credit to you guys because y'all really made that that situation work for me.
No doubt. It was amazing. Switching gears before I let you go, you've been a lot more involved in the media space. I think you do an incredible job. Obviously, we all know you're never going to mince your words. You are going to say exactly what you think and feel. It's going to be authentic. It's going to be real. And that I can appreciate because that's how I try to go about the business. But in getting into the media space, and you just said something that's very interesting. You said, how we deal with the media, like, and now to be on that side in a sense, is ultimately like media is something that you want to do post-career. It's kind of something you're doing right now. Where do you see that thing moving for you?
It's definitely a lane I want to be in. I feel I'm a person with a lot of knowledge with this game, a lot of experiences. I'm a person that, relied on thinking the game, so I kind of view the game in a different way than, guys that more so rely on athleticism.
Mm-hmm.
So and then on top of it, I feel like I'm a guy that can kind of help people relate with understanding both sides. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, for me, it was when we came into the league, I came in 2010, and it was kind of a league where, you had to just shut up and play. Like, regardless of what was said, if it's true or not, you know, part of being professional back then was, you know, just kind of taking it on the chin. And, you know, a lot of information to be spread about you or a rumor be said about you. And it could have simply been because you didn't take that one-on-one with a media member. So
absolutely.
They take it personal. They have a bias towards you, or they feel like you're an asshole, and then now the narrative begins to shift. You know what I mean? So for me, that's part of the reason I kind of got into this lane. One, I can tell my own story. I can tell you exactly who I am. You can hear it directly from the horse's mouth. And on top of that, you know, I want to speak on this game from, you know, my perspective, my point of view. And I also want to be able to critique it in a way where I'm honest, I'm real in my answers. But, you know, when it comes to these athletes hearing, you know, my response, it'll never be where I want them to feel like, I don't think DeMarcus likes me. Like, no, I'm going to just speak my truth. Hey, bro, you play like shit, or whatever the case may be. And I see you in person, and it's, you know, I got a lot of respect for you, and, you know, I wish you the best. So that's more so how I kind of want to go about it when it comes to, you know, just, you know, explaining this game and giving the people what they want as far as the insight of the game on both sides. So, you know, that's just kind of where I'm at with it.
No, dope. I think, like I said, I enjoy watching you. I think you've done an incredible job. And like shit, I keep telling people, there's room for everybody in the space.
Oh, absolutely.
Because one thing it's about is, like, what's your niche? You know what I'm saying? And like, my niche ain't gonna be your niche. Absolutely. Your niche not gonna be my niche. And because of that, then there's space for both of us because I can stay in my lane, you can stay in yours. And so I really enjoy you doing that. You ultimately decided to go overseas and play. You've been in China, you've been in Taiwan. What did it take you to reach there, to ultimately get to that decision? I know, you know, a lot of us struggle with that. You know, a lot of us like, man, fight it. Some guys never do it. Leave a ton of money on the table, never doing it. What was it for you that gave you that final push? Like, fuck it, I'm going to do it. Like, and that's just what it is.
It's pretty simple. I had that itch. I'm like, bro, I want to hoop. Like, you know what I mean?
Hell
you know, you get so stuck on trying to, you know, get back to the league or wherever the case may be. I come to find out I'm in the gym 7 days a week trying to play 5-on-5 basketball. And I'm telling myself, like, dude, just go play basketball. Like, figure out a situation that's, you know, convenient for you. And it wasn't as simple as, you know, I just want to go play basketball so I can just up and leave. Because obviously I have a family. I have my at-home situation. So it's not as easy. So I definitely had to find convenience in that factor. But, you know, ultimately we figured it out. And, you know, I was able to go, you know, scratch that itch. So, like I said, I very much still love the game. I'm very much still committed to it. I train weekly. Like, I train like I'm still in the NBA. You know what I mean? So that's how committed I am to this game. And, you know, until that, you know, that itch is gone, I'm going to continue to play this game.
I can appreciate it because I've always, I mean, I think now I could because I've just traveled so much and I have a different appreciation for Europe and Asia and all these different things. But it takes so much to A, swallow your pride, B, like make that sacrifice. Like going all the way over there, you can't really talk to people back at home because of the time difference. When you do, they're going to bed or you going to bed. And the list goes on and on and on. And so for me, I have the utmost respect for guys that can go overseas and play and actually do that. And even more respect for the guys who experience the NBA, especially at a high level like you have, the highest level. And just can't quite, you know, like they just can't quite get it. And so I can appreciate that.
Appreciate you, bro.
So, man, I've appreciated this conversation. As you know, the love that I have for you.
Absolutely.
It's here. Will we see you try to make another run at the NBA, or are you just going to continue to scratch the itch till you're done and say, you know what, I'm done with that. I've done that. I don't want to quite chase that no more. And the reason I ask that is this. I actually think I was so happy when you said, like, I'm done chasing that. And the reason I was happy is because you, great, man. Like, I had to guard you. Like, great. I still never forget the play where I was talking shit to you. You put your chest and your shoulder into my chest. I went into the stanchion and you was about to dunk on me and Bogut blocked the shot. I was so happy because it was no coming back from that play for me. I was so happy Bogut blocked that shot. Oh my God, it was no coming back from that. I was so happy. But one thing I think happens is like people then try to lessen what you've done and they do it to you. I watched them do it to Melo when Melo was like, nah, like I still want to play and like I'm trying to get back in the league. And then he even ended up getting back in the league, but it's like, it's almost like people feel like, oh, here's my chance to treat you how I want to treat you.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Is that door still shut for you where you like, nah, I'm good on the NBA. Like if I want to play basketball, I'll still play basketball, but that thing for me is done.
Like I said, I'm definitely at the place where, I'm gonna scratch my itch. But as far as chasing it, I'm done chasing. If it's a situation that's, that makes sense, it's some insurance behind it and things of that nature, then absolutely, I would consider it. But like I said, as far as chasing or begging and kissing ass, that's not happening.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
My dog.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, bro. That's a wrap.
Sure.
This episode of the show. We thank you, bro.
Appreciate you, Brody.
Absolutely. Resort World, we appreciate you. It's a wrap. Peace.